This is Chris with Christcross Crafts. Today we're going to take a look at a heart puzzle I made for a client to put in her therapy office. I wanted something that she could let her kids play with it when she's working with them, but then also put it back up and make a piece of art. Let's take a look and see how I made it.
Okay, so let's take a look at the basic design in Vectric on this puzzle. There is a lot going on here, and I am certainly not going to walk you through the entire process, but I will give you enough to give you an understanding. So downloaded this puzzle and simply took the heart shape, zoomed in to be able to get 4 pieces in the middle of the heart, just as you can see there. I also imported in her logo, so I would have sort of something to go by there as well. So between the puzzle image and the logo, those are 2 images that I had to use quite a bit of tracing around to get them right. So once I had the logo imported, I was able to smooth in on that and kind of clean that up manually, especially around the heart. I did have to trace that. The Vectric did not do a good job. The image wasn't very clean, and so I had to use that tracing tool, but I also had to clean those up, spent some time getting those right, and the end result is what we have here. And so what I wound up doing was, after cleaning those up and trimming those around this upper heart, wound up with a nice clean result. Moving into the heart, what I did was, once I had my initial vectors, I wanted the frame to actually be part of the puzzle. So I came up here and created this part using part of the puzzle as that image. And I did clean these up a little bit. This is not my final result. I wanted to make sure I left this one so that we could talk about it in the video. If you're using an 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch or whatever end mill, it's important, if you're going to do puzzle pieces, notice how this does not wrap around and it leaves this gap. So over here, I actually went ahead and cleaned that up and trimmed it so that the radius would still allow that bit to get in there to make this profile, and I had minimal issue that way. So it's important, if you're going to do puzzles or anything really that's going to intersect, you need to make sure you know what diameter bit you're going to use, and that all of the intersecting components are going to be allowed to follow at least that radius or larger, so that you don't wind up with things like this. Moving on, once I had my initial vectors, I did offset them a couple of thousandths in each direction. So that was an easy fix. If I'm looking at this component here, you can come right down here to your offset. You can go both and pick whatever distance you like. What I've found is about 3 to 5 thousandths gives you good spacing if you're wanting a snug puzzle, but not so snug that it's hard to pull out. If I'm doing something for children, I will actually increase that spacing more to make sure that the puzzle can come off easily. You don't want those to be tight, snug, so hard that you can't get them apart. Especially if we're dealing with wood here that will expand and contract. And so children's puzzle, I may go 4 to 5 thousandths, maybe even 6 either side of the line, but in this case I went with 3 both ways, which gives me a total spacing of 6 thousandths. Not very much, and still enough to hold the puzzle pieces together, but not so much that they simply fall out. Well, originally I was thinking of hanging this on the wall, which would have been fine, but then I had the idea, well, let's make a base. So I took this outline of her original logo shape and came up with this base, and that seemed to work out pretty good. I thought that would work. I wanted this to be double thickness so it would give some support, but I also needed something on the front that would support the heart itself. So this piece would actually be the same thickness or slightly thicker than the heart, so it would have plenty of support and not simply fall over. And to help ensure that it didn't fall over, I felt like the base needed to have an angle cut on the bottom after all the pieces were glued up, so that it would have a back bevel and give it plenty of support and not be too top heavy. So I've got my 2 main backer pieces, and on one of them, the front one, I actually went ahead and etched their names and business here, so at least that way when the heart wasn't in place, the base would still be representative of their business. And then this is the part that's going to hold the heart in place on the back of the frame. So these 3 pieces would be glued together. I did not use a dowel. Looking back, I wish I did. Aligning these was a little tricky, and then sanding this down in here was a little tricky, which we'll see more further in the video. But this is the basic layout. Once I had my components laid out, I did my offsets. I had each of the puzzle parts separate. I went ahead and created each of them up here on different sheets, and you can see I have got Purpleheart, Walnut, Yellowheart, and Padauk were the colors that I chose. I went with a Bubinga stand, and then the oak for the actual heart frame itself that all of these puzzle pieces would fit into. So enough jibber jabber, let's get into the build and see what I did in the shop.
Alright, to get started, here is a quick look at the project sheets, and you can see I've made myself some little notes on there to make sure I did things in a certain order. And there are the puzzle pieces, all ready to go, milled down to size. And for some reason, I did not turn the camera on, so you'll just have to trust me, those were cut out on the CNC. Yeah, I'm about to fire my camera guy. Quick look at the Axiom CNC controller. And we're going to start cutting out the initial run on the heart. This is a 2-pass setup here. I'm using an 1/8 inch end mill to do all of the final cut, and then I'm going to swap that out and use a quarter to do all the cleaning and clear out process. Yep, a lot of build up for one cut, but there it is. I wish that was all. Now this is a quick way, if you didn't know, how to zero out your machine. On the Z, you just drop that paper down until the paper stops sliding, and guess what? That's Z equals 0. And so now I have the 1/4 inch bit in there doing some clean out, filling out that pocket. Now my thin pieces, the puzzle pieces, were 1/4 inch, and so I milled that down 1/8 so they would stick up. Now I have the aura mask on the puzzle pieces, and I went ahead and mounted it in the heart so that I could keep everything locked in place the way it needed to be. It was probably an easier way for me to do it, you know, with all the pieces individually, but I wanted to make sure that everything flowed perfectly, and the only way for me to do that was to put all of the pieces in. I did use some double-sided tape and obviously some clamps to keep those in place and keep them from shifting around while the V-carving was taking place. That aura mask is a game changer. If you've never used it, give it a try. You won't be disappointed. Plus, it gives your V-bit a beautiful little skirt. Look at that. Doesn't it look cute? It does tend to ride up on that V-bit a little bit, but it's easily taken care of. And just like that, it's clean again. Anyway, there's the aura mask. Now all I'm going to do is paint that while it was in place. And of course, again, my cameraman forgot to hit record, and that's what it looks like. Painted it, then peeled the aura mask away, and we are ready to start on the stand. Now this Bubinga is hard as a rock, so I did tweak my settings a little bit, my feeds and speed rate, to adjust for that. And that's why there's really no one feed and speed that works for everything. It's impossible. This stuff sounded like it was cutting glass, so I muted the clip so your eardrums didn't have to shatter like mine did. Anyway, there's the first part of the stand, and I did 2 of those full pieces, and I did 1 of these small V pieces, and then V carved the section with the names on it. This Bubinga is very beautiful. It's a very pretty wood. And there it is glued up. Again, the cameraman forgot to hit record while I was doing the glue up. This is utilizing my microjig clamp system on my workbench. I got that painted as well. Everything's good to go. And that's sort of a quick test fit before I put the finish on. and it worked out really well. And you can see I just sprayed that with a satin lacquer, make everything look nice and clean. And that's that 10-degree bevel showing off how it leans back. And man, it turned out really, really well. I'm very, very proud of that, and the customer absolutely loved it, which is the whole reason why we do what we do. That's what it looked like in her office. Off to the next project.
It's been a long day, but got quite a bit done considering I had a lot of little problems. Let's check it out. So the stand is drying, of course, in the micro jig match fit workbench. 3 layers of this Bubinga. I will come back and put a 10-degree bevel right there once this is all dried and cleaned up. So it's advertising their stuff even when the puzzle's not on the stand. I got the red oak, and I'll tell you what, sanding all of this took about everything I had. But I do absolutely love these sanding stars for doing easing of edging of things like this and getting in all these little crevices of the puzzle. Worked fantastic. But otherwise, I was using my disc, my sheet sander, my foam pads, hand sanding, but that's the winner overall. So anyway, red oak's done. These are all eased and edged, and man, they're smooth, looking good. That'll fit right in that little pocket. Easy to play with. That is my test stand that this will end up being just like it. And so when they're done playing, they can put it right in the stand just like that, and everything has place. Pretty cool. Once you get that finished, that'll look really awesome, I think. Maybe. Anyway, love how it's turning out. There we go. End of another long day here yeah. Y'all have a great night, or morning, or day, whatever. See you.